Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of What's Hot with Tranquility. I'm your host, Pete Pardo. Today is Tuesday, March the 13th. We've got a single release show here today. We're going to talk about just one album, or actually it's kind of like a collection, a box set that's been released. It's pretty noteworthy. It's actually taken me a few days to kind of get through the whole thing, and I think I can kind of form some opinions and talk a little bit about it. I've been hinting that I'm going to be covering this, and a few of you have asked what the story is with this. So just got my hands on it a few days ago. I'm going to go back to December 9th and 10th, 1973. From Hollywood, California at the Roxy Theater. I think some of you probably know what I'm talking about. Of course, the famous Roxy Performances by Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention. So the Zappa Family Foundation, or whatever they're calling themselves these days, have put together a box set of all of the recordings of those four shows from December 9th and 10th, 1973. Titled Zappa and the Mothers, the Roxy Performances. Pretty cool shot of Frank. Whoops, got some glare there. Frank on the cover, playing his trusty SG, smoking a cigarette. Got his wah-wah pedal not far from him down there. Anyway, this is the full Kahuna. This is everything. Okay, you know, we've had the Roxy and Elsewhere classic 70s Zappa live album, which was basically some of the best of those four shows from those 2 days. So remember, back in the day, a lot of bands would play at some of these, famous clubs. They'd play like multiple shows. Hendrix did that all the time. In fact, the Band of Gypsies album is taken from shows that were played around New Year's Eve in 1969 and 1970 in the late afternoon, then in the evening, into the wee hours of the morning. Zappa, very similar here, played like an early show and a late show both of those 2 days. In addition to that, okay, we've also got rehearsal recordings here, and just, in fact, where are they taken from here? The Booklet Studios. So we've got a bunch of rehearsal recordings, some tunes not performed at the live Roxy show. So what's the deal with all this? So a lot of people are saying, well, but if I've got the Roxy and Elsewhere album, do I really need this? Then others are saying, well, I bought the Roxy by Proxy, which was released a year or two ago or whatever, and that contained additional recordings from the four shows. Do I really need this? Well, if you're a Zappa completist and you want to hear, everything that was played those 2 days, those four shows, you got it now. I think I paid about $45 for this. So really not bad. 7 CDs. Granted, a lot of the tunes are repeated, obviously. But what's kind of cool about it is Zappa and the Mothers, they didn't play any of these songs exactly the same way twice during those couple days, which is kind of neat. So let's take a look. Let's kind of unbox this or open it up. So it's kind of like this clamshell thing, right? So first and foremost, you've got a very cool booklet. All right. And this has got all sorts, it's a pretty thick booklet actually, a lot of information. I'm not going to be able to show you everything here, but a lot of information, a lot of very cool pictures, photographs, information on the shows, the historical significance of it all. Okay. A lot of cool shots of the rest of the band. So, the band, we got the Walt Fowler and Ruth Underwood and George Duke, and the whole crew, right? Let me just see if I can get a listing of everybody on here. Okay, so here we go. Frank Zappa, guitar and vocals. George Duke, keyboards, synths, and vocals. Tom Fowler on bass. Ruth Underwood on percussion. I can't stress enough how great Ruth Underwood is, man. Her on the percussion, the vibes and whatnot, just uncanny stuff. Bruce Fowler on trombone. Napoleon Murphy Brock on tenor sax, flute, and lead vocals. Ralph Humphrey on drums and percussion, and of course Chester Thompson on drums and percussion. Also featuring at various points in time during these couple shows, Jeff Simmons guests, as well as Pamela DeBar. She comes up and does some dancing and whatnot. Carl Franzoni and Brenda. No idea who Brenda is. So that's the booklet. Very, very cool. And then each individual, I don't know if you can see this, each individual disc comes housed in like a little cardboard packaging here. So, disc 1 has got the December 9th show. We got Cosmic Debris, We're Making a Movie, Pygmy Twilight, The Idiot Bastard Son, Cheapness, Hollywood Perverts, Penguin and Bondage, Tamershi Dween, The Dog Breath Variations, Uncle Meat, Redunzel, Montana, Dupree's Paradise. If you're well familiar with the original Roxy and Elsewhere album, you're going to know when the songs come up that were from that album, you're going to know immediately that when you're listening to this, you'll know, oh, that's the version of that tune from the Roxy album, because especially the way like Frank kind of intros some of these songs. What else? Dickie's Such an Asshole we've got here. I'm the Slime, Big Swifty, Echidna's R for View, Village of the Sun, a very different Inca Roads. Very different Inca Roads. What's kind of cool is that, I was expecting Inca Roads like from the actual studio version, and the arrangement is very different. But of course, you got Ruth Underwood doing all her, and all that kind of stuff. It's very, very cool. What else? What else we got here? We got a King Kong medley, Montana, Cosmic Debris, the Bebop Tango. There's actually a couple versions of the Bebop Tango on here, obviously. One of them is like 22 minutes long. But, and again, all sorts of cool stuff. One thing I do want to mention is the, over on, what is it, disc 6. Let's see here. Yeah, the studio recording. So, the rehearsal sessions. So, these are pretty cool. The Bullock Studios recording sessions. So, we've got like Kung Fu, Don't Eat the Yellow Snow, Nanook Rubs It, St. Alfonso's Pancake Breakfast, which is actually really damn cool, Father Oblivion, and Rollo. So some really cool stuff. What else? Pygmy Twilight, I think I mentioned that. Cheapness, Don't You Ever Watch That Thing, all sorts of stuff. Like I said, some of it's going to be familiar if you are a big, big, long-time fan of the Roxy and Elsewhere album. But if you've always kind of wanted to know what some of the other stuff that they played on those 4 shows sounded like, well, now you got it all. You got it all. Just some incredible, incredible musical arrangements. These guys, this is probably, I'm going to go ahead and say it, this is the best Zappa band ever, in my opinion. The most talented. These guys were incredible musicians. This is like basically jazz fusion of the highest order. George Duke and, like I said, Ruth Underwood and Zappa every now and then throw in an incredible guitar solo. Just a really, really great collection that I'm glad I picked up, because I've always known that the Roxy shows were more than just the Roxy and Elsewhere album, as great as it is. And you could arguably say that the best versions of some of these songs, or the closest to some of the studio counterparts, although a lot of those tunes never appeared on a studio album. It's arguable whether the Roxy and Elsewhere album contains the best versions of those tunes. You're going to have to judge for yourself. Now you can, because you can go out and get this and listen to all the 4 shows painstakingly and say, well, what are the best versions of some of these tunes? Well, more importantly, well, how different is this version of Cosmic Debris than that one? Okay? Or how different is Penguin and Bondage from night 1, show 2, than it is from day 2, show 3 or 4, whatever. So that's kind of the cool thing about it. So I've been like listening to this nonstop for the last 2 days, and I just got all these like passages and arrangements and melodies and crazy musical, adventures going on and on through my head. So I'm a little dizzy right now, but I think you get the picture. For some people, this is going to be completely overkill, and that's okay, right? Because we will always have the Roxy and Elsewhere album, which is a stone cold classic. But if you want to hear everything else, okay, warts and all the crazy extended passages, and some of these arrangements and some of these tunes on a couple of the shows, go off into places where you're puzzled. It's like, wow, what are they doing here? But what's kind of cool is they really change things up from show to show to show. So some of these tracks sound completely different from show to show, and that's kind of neat. That's what was being an artist in the 70s was all about, and specifically Frank Zappa, who is just a virtuoso, just a musical mastermind to not only come up with arrangements to these tunes, but to kind of get these players to do exactly what he wanted, and to go into kind of avenues and directions where no normal man would ever go, right? So, yeah. So the Roxy Performances, 7 discs, box set, clamshell, cool booklet. The sound is great, as you would imagine. So if you're a Zappa lover, you got to have this. You got to have this, as I've done. So anyway, that's our show for today. It's a short one. It's all about Frank Zappa and the Mothers and Roxy from the Roxy Theater in Hollywood, California. All 4 shows plus other stuff. Can't go wrong there. So see us on the web at www.seeitranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on the mighty YouTube. We've got another solo release episode coming up over the next couple days. It's all about Whitesnake's Purple Live Blu-ray CD combo pack. I'm going to be reviewing that over the next couple days. So that's coming up very, very soon. So till then, take care. See you soon.